For this video, you are going to answer these two questions. The United States had much more power than Native American groups. Why did they have more power? Second question. Since the U.S. had more power, how did this typically affect treaties? We will read pages 6.04 and 6.05 in the Minnesota History textbook titled Northern Lights: The Stories of Minnesota's Past, written by David Kennedy in consultation with the Minnesota Historical Society. A new nation grows. In 1783, the United States won independence from Great Britain in the Revolutionary War. Soon after, the new nation looked to expand, or grow, to the west. As a result of winning the war, the United States claimed control of land previously claimed by Great Britain. This included much of the land between the original 13 colonies and the Mississippi River. Britain controlled much of Canada, and France and Spain still claimed ownership of land in Florida and west of the Mississippi River. In reality, however, this land belonged to hundreds of American Indian nations that had lived there for centuries. If the United States wanted to expand, it would have to acquire land from those American Indian nations. In the early 1800s, thousands of European American settlers were so eager to go west that they moved onto lands still belonging to American Indian nations. The U.S. government supported this westward expansion by acquiring land from these groups. Sometimes the United States made written agreements, called treaties, with American Indian nations to buy land for cash and goods. The making of treaties was, and still is today, a familiar practice between sovereign or self-ruling nations. The treaties between American Indian nations and the United States were complicated, however, because the balance of power was not equal. Both sides knew the United States was more powerful. It had more money, more people, and more military power than individual American Indian nations. As a result, most treaties favored the U.S. government at the expense of American Indian nations. Several times, rather than accepting an unfair deal, American Indians chose to fight for their land. The United States responded by using its power to force them to sign agreements anyway. The United States did not always live up to the commitments it made in these legal arguments. As westward expansion continued into the early 1800s, the U.S. government began turning its attention to the lands west of the Mississippi River. In 1803, France sold the United States the rights to more than 900,000 acres of land west of the Mississippi River. This included land controlled by the Ojibwe and Dakota in what is now Minnesota. At this time, please go answer the two questions on slide 15 that have to do with what you just read on 6.04 and 6.05.